I'll call this meeting of the Owensboro Board of Commissioners to order. Welcome everyone this evening and ask our city clerk to please call the roll.
Commissioner Bob Glenn.
Here.
Commissioner Debbie Nunley.
Here.
Mayor Ron Payne.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Jeff Sanford.
Here.
Commissioner Pam Smithwright.
Here.
All present. I'll ask everyone to please stand while our city manager leads us in the invocation and the pledge to the flag.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd ask you to join me in prayer or silent meditation as may be your personal preference and practice. Father God, we thank you for this change in weather and recognize your hand upon this earth. We marvel at your creation. Thank you, Father, for the seasons that allow the growth of crops to sustain us, but also a dormant period for our land to rest and be replenished. We thank you for the rich land in this community, Lord, so important for our food and also for our economy. On the eve of November 3rd, Father God, we pray for our gubernatorial elections. We thank you for this democracy that allows us to vote. We thank you for the freedom we enjoy that is the envy of the world. We pray, Father God, your hand upon this democracy, our leaders at every level. We pray, Father, for our troops in the field on foreign shores and their families at home, that you would protect them all and keep them safe. And for our people, Father God, to participate in this democracy by voting. Father God, we pray you be with this commission tonight, watch over them and protect them, but also provide them wisdom and sound judgment as they carry out their assigned task. It's in Christ's name I pray, Lord. Amen.
Amen.
Now the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, the next item, Commissioners, is we have a presentation about the First Tee program.
I think that's me. First of all, my name is Christy Brown, and I am the board president for the First Tee of Owensboro. I met with Mayor Payne in September, and he suggested that I come tonight to do a short presentation. So I'm on the time clock. He only says that I only had 5 minutes, so hopefully I'll get that done. I timed it today several times. But I want to thank you for the opportunity to be able to be here tonight to share with you about the First Tee of Owensboro. The First Tee of Owensboro is a youth development program. That's the first and foremost. It's a youth development program that teaches. There are 9 core values that we teach. Those 9 core values are honesty, integrity, respect, sportsmanship, confidence, courtesy, responsibility, perseverance, and judgment. We also teach life skills with our curriculum. In those life skills, participants can be taught things such as how to introduce yourself to someone, the importance of maintaining a positive attitude, how to make decisions by thinking about possible consequences, how to set goals, and how to create a go-to team to help with decision making. We also have in our curriculum 9 healthy habits. Those healthy habits represent a comprehensive approach to youth wellness and are organized under 3 categories of physical, emotional, and social health. Participants who progress within the First Tee life skills experience, they will learn age-appropriate health and wellness behaviors at each level of the curriculum. The 9 healthy habits were developed alongside with Annika Sorensen. If you ever heard that name before, she's an LPGA player. And we teach all of this curriculum through the game of golf. In August, I received a default letter from our home office in St. Augustine, Florida. We have 90 days or until November 23rd to meet the 7 requirements that are in the letter. We have already completed 4 of those 7 requirements, but to keep our chapter license agreement, we must have 3 things done by November 23rd. First, we must increase our board members, the numbers of the board members. Second, we must hire an executive director. And third, we have to increase our current $45,000 annual budget to, in 2016, a $100,000 budget. So we've already been working on our budget for next year. So for our budget of this $100,000, we're figuring in that we need $45,000 in corporate donations. Our program creates current customers and future customers for the golf courses of Davis County. So we must have financial support from the community or we will lose our chapter. There are only 4 First Tee chapters in the state of Kentucky, and 1 is in Owensboro, Kentucky. The other 3 are located in Louisville, Lexington, and Pine Mountain. We need to keep our chapter. Last year, we're missing one. Okay, I messed up. So I'll have to read this. Last year, I solicited private and business donations in Ohio County because that's where I live. I live in Beaver Dam. I live in the very southern tip of Beaver Dam. And I got what's called, with the First Tee, the National School Program in all 6 elementary schools in our county. So that means, with it being in the elementary schools, that the 9 core values, the life skills, and the healthy habits are all being taught in the PE classes. The PE teachers were trained. Golf equipment for indoor use was purchased, and that is now being done in Ohio County. It's been done for 1 school year. We want to get the NSP program in schools in Owensboro and Davis County. It is a one-time fee of $3,250 per school, and that is to do the training of the PE teacher and to get the indoor golf equipment. So I am here today to make contacts. I need people to know about our program. Honestly, can y'all be honest with me? How many of you have heard of the First Tee of Owensboro? Okay, it's a little bit more than I anticipated, so that's good. But we need people to know about our program. I need board members. Currently we have 10 on our board. We need between 18 and 20 on our board. And I need contacts to go to businesses and ask for financial commitment for 2016 and beyond. Oh, there's my slide. I have witnessed firsthand for 10 years what this program can do for kids. As I said, I live in southern Ohio County. I'm 43 miles from Ben Hall's state golf, it was state when we first moved there, now it's the city. Ben Hall's Park, one way, 43 miles. And I drove my children there for a long time. My oldest one, he went through the program for 10 years. He is in college now. And I know without a doubt that the confidence that was given to him with this program has helped him to become who he is today. It is a positive influence in our community. I know that. So that's why I'm here. A couple of things that I wanted to mention is that we do have a couple of activities coming up, events coming up. October 24th at 4 p.m. we have a night golf scramble for anybody has anybody ever played a night golf scramble? They're fun. And we can, you play 9 holes before dark, you take a break, then you play 9 holes after dark with glow-in-the-dark golf balls. And then on November 14th at 6:30 to 8:30, we're having a benefit dinner at Immaculate Parish Hall. I am staying for the entire meeting. I'm not leaving after I present, so I would welcome anyone to come up and speak with me after the meeting. I've got my shirt on, so if you forget what I look like, you can look for my shirt. Does anyone have any questions?
Okay, let me ask you, Christy, the dinner at Immaculate, how do you get tickets, or how do you sign up?
I have tickets with me tonight.
You do? Okay.
Yes, I do.
Okay, good, because I'm going to need some of those.
Okay.
Let me ask you now, as far as the schools go, because I think this is a perfect place for this to receive support. Are you going to contact the superintendents of both of those school systems?
We've made some contact in the past, but we were going to have to come up with the money ourselves. You know,
Okay.
Schools, that's why whenever I did this in Ohio County, I went around to business and private individuals and I came up with the money to get it because the schools don't have the money to spend that extra bit on it.
I would also ask if there is, if you wouldn't mind meeting with Candace Brake,
Okay.
Castlin Brake, who is president of the chamber.
Okay.
And just tell her about the program. She may be even watching this tonight.
Okay.
And see, get her ideas about how maybe we could get the business community involved in this, because I tell you, the goals of this program are outstanding. My gosh, it's wonderful. Health and all the promotion, good sportsmanship, all that First Tee teaches these young people. And golf is a great way to great way to do this. So. And that's why, of course, you and I talked about maybe getting you on Channel 75 here, the TV's or cable TV channel, and letting people see this. And why don't you, if someone wanted to contribute to this program, how would they go about doing it so they hear this at home?
They would need to go to the website, and there would be contact information on that
Okay.
website.
Okay,
Yes,
you got
sir.
it here. Okay, very good.
And you can always Google the First Tee, and everything comes up,
Okay,
with Owensboro. Mm-hmm.
great. All right. Any questions, comments from the commission?
Again, thank you, Mayor Payne. Thank you,
Yes.
commissioners, for your time.
Thank you for your work in this area. All right, commissioners, the next item of business is to approve our meeting minutes, our public hearing, special call meeting, our public hearing on ad valorem taxes, and the commission meeting of October 6, 2015. Do I have a motion for approval?
So moved.
Second.
Any questions, comments, corrections? Anybody? Call the vote.
Commissioner Glenn?
Yes.
Commissioner Nunley?
Yes.
Mayor Payne?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Sanford?
Yes.
Commissioner Smith-Wright?
Aye.
Motion passes. Commissioners, the next item are a few board appointments. First is to the Regional Water Resource Agency to appoint Mike Fagan to fill the remainder of a 4-year term expiring February 1st, 2018. To the Cable Advisory Board, reappoint the following members to 2-year terms effective November 18th, 2015. David Kirk, Michael Peacock, David Ralph, and Jason Simon. And to the Southeast Alliance, reappoint Connie Edwards to a 2-year term effective December 1st, 2015. Do I have a motion for approval?
So moved.
Second.
Any questions, comments? Anybody? Call for the vote.
Commissioner Nunley?
Yes.
Mayor Payne?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Sanford?
Yes.
Commissioner Smith-Wright? Commissioner Glenn?
Yes.
Motion passes. Next item, Commissioners, we have no ordinances for second reading. We do have one for first reading. Counselor?
Thank you, Mayor. Ordinance 30-2015, an ordinance providing for the authorization, issuance, and sale of water revenue improvement bonds in the principal amount of $5,500,000 or such lesser amount as may be necessary of the City of Owensboro, Kentucky, for the purpose of paying the cost of improvements and extensions to the municipal waterworks of said city, setting forth the terms and conditions on which said bonds and additional bonds ranking on a parity therewith are to be and may be issued and outstanding, providing for the security and payment of said bonds and interest thereon from the income and revenues of said municipal waterworks, and providing for the rights of the holders of said bonds in the enforcement thereof. Introduced and publicly read on first reading this 20th day of October, 2015.
Commissioners, we have Terry Nolte, the General Manager of OMU here, and he is going to make a presentation in regards to what this is, why this is necessary. Terry?
Thank you, Mayor, Commissioners. Appreciate the opportunity to come before you. And as usual, I'm requesting money. But this is money that's sorely needed. We take for granted every time that we go to the kitchen and turn on the water or turn on the shower that it's going to be there and that it's going to be of the highest quality and cleanliness that we all have come to expect. And that doesn't happen without a lot of hard work and without a lot of equipment and systems to produce that water and deliver it to all of our customers. And today I want to talk to you about the first phase for about a $5.5 million water revenue bonds to begin a 2-phase project in the process of modernizing Owensboro's water production facilities. The Utility Commission and the OMU staff believe that this plan that I'll lay out for you this evening is the most prudent and cost-effective approach. However, the Commission has directed the staff, the Utility Commission has directed the staff to allow for alternatives that a consulting engineer can provide to us that proves to be more cost-effective, and the process that we're undertaking will facilitate that approach. So for tonight's discussion, we're going to go how we got here, what our staff and our consultants have done, the recommendation from the Utility Commission for the 2-phase approach, and then the request for the additional revenue bonds. You may recall that I was before this commission probably a year and a half ago to talk to you about a problem that we had discovered at our Plant A out on US 60 here. It's at the old power plant, and Plant A is our largest water production facility. It produces about 2/3 of the water for the city of Owensboro. In 2012, we discovered that there was differential filter building foundation settlement at the plant, which puts at risk our ability to continue to produce water should there be significant additional movement of that foundation and structure. We have done exhaustive investigations over the last 2.5 years to determine the cause and the remedies for this. And I've got copies of those reports here. You can see we've got a number of documents that have been produced by consultants that are renowned in this area and have a lot of expertise. We've spent at least $250,000 to date on these studies to study the problems, but all the studies from 3 separate consultants have resulted in a conclusion that repairs to the existing filter building are both too expensive and would not provide the certainty of future uninterrupted interruption. The last study that we did, we hired a firm called GRW Engineers out of Lexington, and they're the preeminent water design firm in the state. They've been involved in just about every water production and wastewater facility in Kentucky. Their scope was to prepare detailed cost estimates of 4 options that our previous consultants and OMU staff identified as the most feasible to achieve the goals given the operational constraints. You have to remember that we got to continue to operate the facility to produce the water for the community, even if we're making improvements. So there were 4 different options that were considered, and I've got them listed here on this slide. 3 of the 4 options, the one in yellow, red, and blue, alternative 1, 3, and 4, involve modifications at the existing Plant A facility. In the investigation and the performance of the work by GRW to identify the costs associated with the 4 options, they did extensive additional assessment of equipment at Plant A. And Plant A has been in operation since 1905. We have equipment out there and tanks that are still in service, the oldest of which began service in 1907. Their work identified not only the settlement problem at filter building on Plant A, but additional changes that would be required in order to achieve 30 years of additional life from that facility. To the extent that we're going to invest significant monies into upgrading the facility and making it a dependable facility, we need to make sure that all the rest of the equipment at the facility will be able to last that same 30 years. And so we asked them to come in and identify what additional changes, improvements we would have to make at Plant A. Here's a picture of Plant A in 1940, and I've circled on the left there the old water plant, and that's the 1905 waterworks that were, and that building still exists. It has a different roof on it, but it still exists at the plant. The tanks that are behind it are still in use. The building on the right side is the old power plant, and that's the first phase of the old power plant. It was built in 1939. That facility's been retired for some 30 years now. So what is the risk and the failure that we're concerned about? Well, there are a number besides the routine failure of equipment, but the most significant risk is earthquakes. And as you know, we're in an seismic zone. The 1812 New Madrid earthquake was a very well-reported phenomenon, and were that to strike this area, we would have significant problems. In the pictures, you can see the ceiling cracks. That's the crack between the 1939 and 1954 sections of the filter building. We are monitoring those cracks to ensure that they are not growing, that we're not seeing additional settlement. Luckily, we have not seen what we would call actionable settlement and movement over the last year and a half. The 1907 settlement basin, you can see the bricks that are on the bottom right of that. Those bricks are the original bricks that the tank was a brick tank. We don't build them that way today. They're built with reinforced concrete today, just so that we don't have the earthquake risk that we're talking about here. And then on the upper right, you can see a motor control center. These are the starters and motor control centers, motor control equipment to operate the large pumps that we use at the plant. That facility, that piece of equipment is obsolete. We can't buy parts for it anymore, and we have to replace it. So those are the types of things that we found when we went through Plan A to try to identify what the full scope of work would be required in order to bring the facility to a level where we could get 30 years of additional life out of it. This photo just shows Plan A from an aerial view. The red square is the filter building on the end of the powerhouse, the old powerhouse. That's the section where we're seeing considerable foundation settlement and differential settlement. Plan A is an 18 million gallon per day facility. It's roughly two-thirds of our water production capability here in Owensboro. And as you know, we provide water not only to the city, but to the entire county. The modifications that were proposed and the cost estimates that were put together for Plan A, and I'm not going to go through this in detail, but I just wanted you to see the scope of the amount of work that needs to be done. In the front of the plant, we have some underground water tanks that need to be abandoned. They were beyond repair. They've been in service since the 30s. So they need to be abandoned. The filter building would be abandoned. We would build new aeration, new clarifiers, and refurbish completely the chemical feed plant building in order to meet the demands. Bottom line is that extensive renovations and new construction is needed to make this 110-year-old facility capable of reliable operations for the next 30 years. The various options, alternative 1, 3, and 4 that you saw on that previous slide, all involve this level of construction and renovation on that site. The fourth option that was evaluated was an option to evaluate the expansion of the Cavan plant, which is on 144 next to the power plant, just west of the power plant, from 10 million gallons a day of production to 30 million gallons a day of production, and to idle or retire Plan A. Here's an aerial view of the facility. It was constructed in 1994. It was designed to be expanded. It actually has piping with fixtures on the piping to incorporate additional pumps. It has pump foundations already in place, and there was a preliminary design done by Black & Veatch, the design engineer, on how we would expand the facility. Previous plans, when I look back in the utility archives, it was anticipated that we'd already be into the first 10 million gallon per day expansion of the Cavan plant. Here is an overview of the changes that will be required at the Cavan plant. As you can see, we are adding new clarification, new storage equipment. We're expanding the chemical feed building and putting in some new filters as well as an aeration tower. But this was all originally planned, and the facility is well equipped and set up to accommodate that. So the bottom line here is cost. We looked at the 4 options, and as you can see, The 4 options are not, none of them are cheap. They're all very expensive, ranging from 46.9 million, it's called 47 million, up to $63 million for option 3. This is why we are recommending option 2. Option 2 is the most cost-effective option. It accommodates our operation most effectively in that we can continue to operate Plan A, build out the 2 trains at the Cavan plant, and then switch over with no interruption to service at all. So the phased approach, phase 1, which we're here to talk about tonight, is to do engineering and design, roughly $5.38 million. That's a geotechnical assessment, detailed engineering and design, development of a comprehensive construction request for proposal, and update the bonding estimate that we have. We already have a pretty tight estimate. That $47 million is about a plus or minus 10% estimate. That's a very good estimate for this phase. And you're really not going to get much tighter than that, although when we complete the engineering work, we should be able to get it down to plus or minus 5%. And then another part of the project would be to make contingency plans and investments for the potential loss of Plan A filters, the 18 million gallons per day. So to the extent that we had an earthquake or an event that caused us to not be able to operate those filters, as part of this money, about $2 million of it is to put in contingency measures to allow us to process well water through our chlorination system and deliver it into the city. We've already negotiated permit modifications with the state to allow that in the eventuality that it might have to happen. It'll be a temporary fix, but recognizing that none of us can live without water, the state is able to accommodate us with that. And the process will also allow bidders to provide alternative approaches that have a potential to reduce costs. We really want ideas from other engineering companies as we get these engineering designs in, and our process is one in which, before we start the detailed engineering work, we'll ask each of the bidders to come in and show us if they have some better ideas that could potentially save us some money. This approach was approved and recommended by the Utility Commission at its October 1st meeting. And the second phase is the construction phase. Based on estimates today, that'd be a $45 million construction phase. It's a 36-month construction period. It would add 20 million gallons of production capability. It would involve the construction of a new 30-inch main from the Cavan plant down into the east end of town. I've got several potential routes that are shown there. One is right down US 60. We don't think the state will probably allow us to do that one because of the traffic. The other one is the red line that kind of goes by the hospital and down into town. And we have already received, last bullet there, closure of Plan A, facilities and potential sale of property. We've already received a couple inquiries, people that might be interested in purchasing that property to the extent that we abandon it. The prime riverfront property that's above the floodplain is very desirable. The timeline for this is as shown here. The phase 1, the bond ordinance, we're asking you to approve that bond ordinance next month. We'd actually do the sale in December. Luckily, interest rates have remained low. The Fed did not increase interest rates, and so our bonds should be at a very low tick, total interest costs. And then in December, we'll receive responses to the Phase 1 RFP. We'll award the technical and engineering contract and then finish that work sometime at the end of next year. And then, depending on the recommendations, whether it's an alternative or whether they're proceeding with option 2, we'll be back in front of this commission sometime after the first of the year in January of 2017 with another request for the actual construction funding. It's a 36-month construction period, so that means we're 4.5 years out from today on being able to start up the new plan if we went with option 2. So finally, we're asking you, we're here to answer any questions, and we'll be asking you at your next meeting to approve the Utility Commission recommended bond ordinance to borrow up to $5.5 million of new water revenues, new water system revenue bonds. No rate impact. We're not going to adjust rates for this $5 million. We'll wait till the next phase, and then we'll come to you with the rate impacts. With that, I'll open it up for questions.
Terry, thank you. Commissioners, last couple of days I've been thinking about this and thinking back, you know, some years ago I can remember comments about the tremendous need to deal with aging infrastructure in the United States. I don't know if y'all remember those discussions that went on. And, you know, I've looked back over the last 20 years at our city and all of the work that we have done dealing with that very issue. Across the street over here, Chief, I don't know if you ever worked in it or not, but several years ago, of course, well, I'm sure you did. You're not that young, but the old police administration building had to come down. You know, we struggled with it, but we finally realized we had to build a new hospital. We've had to remake our entire downtown. We've done a lot of work on streets. We have new streets. You know, this city has really made an effort to deal with our infrastructure, to put things in place that will be here for generations to come. And, you know, as I thought about this, it seems like the last major hurdle that we have is OMU. And Terry, you know, recognizing that you're talking about this going back for a long time when it was originally built. But not only the water plant, we all know that we still have issues to deal with on the electric side also. But as I look around our community, as I said, this is probably the last big one that we have to deal with, and we have to deal with it. There's just no doubt about that. You know, we can wring our hands and whatever, and it is gonna cost. But we have to have an adequate water supply in this community for our citizens and for our businesses. And so we're going to have to step up and we're going to have to get this done. The only thing, and I think you're doing it, I want to commend the utility board. I know you're working with our staff, that we do this as economical as we possibly can. We need to look at every alternative, and it looks to me like you're doing that very thing with this proposal that you've made here tonight. But I, for one, know that it is something that we got to do, and we owe it to the generations to come to get this done. So I don't have any questions of him. Commissioners, I've talked off and on about this. Commissioner Pam Smith-Wright.
The firm that did the study, what is their name?
The last study was done by a firm called GRW Engineers.
No, that's not the one I'm thinking
And
of.
the previous study was done by Black & Veatch.
Yes.
They're the original designers of portions of that plant. They were designers of the old power plant and the filter building. They also designed the Cavan plant.
So they're still in business, though, right?
They're one of the top 5 worldwide engineering firms.
Okay. So
very reputable.
Okay, so they could possibly be the person that would build this.
Yeah, we don't want to preclude. Well, there's 2 phases, Commissioner. There's the design phase,
Yes.
which we're asking for your authority tonight in November, second reading, and then there's the construction phase. Large engineering companies like Black & Veatch usually have a division that does design work and construction work, 2 different divisions. And since we're splitting the work, they would have an opportunity to bid on both phases. And to the extent they were the low bidder, to the mayor's point,
Yes.
you know, we would entertain that their proposal.
Okay. And the other thing, you were saying that Plan A distributes 3/4 of the water for this community.
About 2/3, about
Two-
63%. Yeah.
So, in the stage of where you are building, how do you distribute this water? I mean, without any.
Today, what we do is we try to make sure that we have production at both facilities. That way, if we were to lose one through some failure, we'd have the other one capable to produce. On the average day, we produce about 50% of the water needs from the Cavan plant and about 50% of the water needs from Plant A. Production of water at the Cavan plant is actually, on a cost per 1,000 gallons, a little cheaper to produce it at Cavan because it's a newer, more efficient facility.
Okay. Just one last question, and I understand that we need to do this, but has that building moved any?
It has.
I mean,
it moves on a seasonal basis. We've actually seen the cracks open up and close back down and then open back up again.
With the freezing and thawing.
And we really think it has more to do with soil moisture content than anything. So when we have periods of drought, like we're seeing today, we're 6 weeks since the last major rain, we are seeing that settlement worsen. So we monitor it. It's actually a constant monitor with alarms. We have it, people wake up in the middle of the night and look at their cell phone to see where that thing is. When I get up every morning, first thing I do is turn on the tap to make sure water's still coming out, because it's the one thing at OMU that I worry about the most.
Okay, thank you.
A couple comments. Terry, you mentioned earthquakes. The Cavan plant that we have now, is that earthquake? I guess nothing's earthquake proof, but we build another one.
Yeah, at the Cavan plant, it was designed in the 90s, the early 90s, and while the standards have become a little bit more rigorous with respect to seismic protection since the 90s, it was state-of-the-art in 1994 when it was built. All the major equipment is below ground. Things below ground in an earthquake move at the same rate as the earth does, and so they shouldn't break.
Okay.
It's when you have things above ground and you get that differential movement that things break. And so we feel a lot better about the design of that facility. The new facility that we would design, regardless of whether it's at Cavan or Plan A, it would comply fully with the current seismic building codes.
So with the Cavan plant, if Plan A is producing 2/3, would it produce 7 to 8 million gallons per day? Is my math correct?
We're building to meet the peak day.
Okay.
And so the peak demand on the system is about 20 million gallons per day, and we have to be able to meet that at all times. So if we have one production train offline for maintenance or for a forced outage of some type, we'd still be able to produce that 20 million gallons with 2 trains.
Just last question. Just in your opinion, in 10 years from now, will we be using more or less water as a community?
We'll
and
probably our projections. We don't lightly approach this. It's a great question because we have seen considerable reduction in water use on a per capita basis. That's because of low flow toilets, shower restrictors, bottled water.
Right.
We'd love people to use more OMU water than bottled water, than paying $1 a bottle. You can fill up that one of our bottles that same size about 2,000 times for the price that you pay for one bottle of water at the store.
Well, I do that, so
yeah.
Okay.
And yes, water conservation is an issue. However, remember, we also serve the county,
right?
And so we are seeing growth in certain parts of the county due to economic development, and we always hope that we get a big water user and a big employer to come and move into the Owensboro area.
Right. So agriculturally, is that a big
We do.
user?
Agriculture do use a lot of water for irrigation during drought periods. However, they have cut back as well by putting in their own wells and using surface water and things like that because water costs money. One thing I want to point out about rates You know, in our surveys, Owensboro, Kentucky, lowest water rates in the state of Kentucky.
Okay.
And so we've done a great job with the equipment that we've had and the system we've had. And yes, we're going to face some rate increases, but we're still going to be in the lowest quartile of cities in Kentucky, even with a large rate increase.
Okay. Thank you.
Terry, you know, things such as Gateway Commons out there, that
That's
huge
gonna help.
development should help.
Absolutely, that'll
yeah.
help. We're encouraging them to put in all kinds of irrigation.
There you go. Commissioner?
It is rather ironic, Terry, that citizens will complain about a $3 to $6 increase on their bill, but over a month's time, you wonder how many bottles of this that you buy at 99 cents
Right.
a bottle. It is rather. Two questions. The combined capacity, if you would repeat, is 20,000?
Today we have 28 million gallons per day of water production capability.
Capability. Okay,
Yes.
and you're increasing that. This
We're only
new plant-
increasing it by 2 million gallons a day, and the reason is because of the economies of scale. It wouldn't make sense for us to build two 10 million gallon trains and then an 8 million gallon train, because we'd have dissimilar equipment across them. With 3 10s, we have all the same equipment. We can maintain it a lot easier. Parts are interchangeable. Inventory costs will be less, et cetera, et cetera.
Would we, as a community, be in a position to be able to supply water to contiguous communities around, and would we be prudent to look at making that plant larger?
That's a really interesting question, and one that, as I'm not a politician, I'll just say that right away. So, we did approach McLean County about that as they debated to build their own water treatment system, and they chose to build their own water treatment system at a higher cost because of the economic development aspects of the employment, people that work at the facility, the construction jobs to build it, et cetera, et cetera. So that was more of a political decision. We continuously test those markets to see if we could sell some of our excess to them.
Yeah, I think that's really wise, and it would be timely to do it, you know, at this point. My other question is, how much acreage are we looking at on the property that we're planning?
Commissioner, I don't know the answer to that question, but I'll be able. I'll grab it.
Can you guesstimate?
I would say it's probably 30.
Okay. Okay. Thank
25, 30. Now we do have the old power plant that sits on that property, and we also have a large substation that sits on that property. The substation probably would be cost prohibitive to move. The old power plant, the other equipment there could be demolished, and the value of the property would probably justify that.
Would there be hazardous material issues?
There are. Back in the 1930s and 40s, when they built the power plant, it was very common to use asbestos as the insulator.
Sure.
And so we know we have asbestos and lead paint issues out there, but nothing beyond that. And that can easily be abated. It's just a matter of cost.
Mr. Glenn?
Yeah, I've got a few questions I wanted to ask. The first is, you have your chlorine treatment plant out at Plant A, correct?
Yes, we have chlorine treatment at both facilities.
At both facilities.
Yes.
So when you presumably shut down Plant A, what does that do to your capacity to handle chlorine abatement at Cabin? Will you expand that, or is what you have currently going to be enough at Cabin? How will you deal with that?
Well, the Utility Commission has not settled on, provided direction to us on what they ultimately think we should do there. To be part of the study is to look at the costs of eliminating chlorine. A big benefit, I think, of the shutdown of the Plant A facility is removing that chlorine risk from the adjacent schoolyard. So that would be a benefit. But the economics of chlorine are better than the alternative, which is hypochlorite. Costs more. It's just as effective, but it costs more, and it's done solely for the benefit, the safety benefit to the community when you make those changes.
Okay. In some earlier conversations about a year and a half ago, you discussed that at Plant A there's some really good, I'm not an engineer, so aquifer, is that the term we're using? Water sources. And one of the reasons you didn't want to move a substantial amount of the new plant to Cabin A is to preserve and keep the aquifers, if I recall our debate and discussion. What happens if we sell all that property? Do we still have access to those resources?
The oldest wells, we use well water. We don't use any river water, right. And that protects us from the kinds of spills that we see on the river and that type of thing. Right. We do have a few wells at Plant A. They're some of the oldest that we have, and they're some of the least productive that we have. We have started a new well field. We've got 5 new pumps that we're putting in over the next 3 to 5 years. And that will be of no consequence, the loss of those 2 pumps that are located on that facility. We have a number of pumps that are located all up and down the riverbank to the east of town that are on private property. But we maintain an easement and a utility easement to be able to access that, and we would continue to do that.
Okay, so what I'm hearing you say is we would not lose access to the most productive wells that we have, even if we sold the property, or
correct,
we're replacing them. Okay. All right, and then the last question I have is, the other concern we had was, of course, OMU power plant is right next to Cabin. And if something catastrophic happened to the power plant, we've got our water supply endangered. Now we're going to move all our water supply down to Cabin. So what steps do you anticipate the engineers who are going to spend $5 million studying this are going to look at in regard to protecting the water supply if something happened at Elmer Smith, God forbid, of course?
Yeah. Well, again, everything at the Cabin plant is contained, so the water is never, with the exception of the time that it's in the settlement basins where we're settling out the lime that we put in it. It's not exposed to the atmosphere. So there's very limited risk that anything could happen at Elmer Smith that would impact our ability to produce water. It's not a concern that I have. We'll certainly include that in our analysis, but it's probably a pretty low priority in terms of the overall scheme of our design.
Okay. All right. Thank you, sir.
Terry, just for purposes of education, you kept referring to train. What is a train?
I'm sorry, a train is a production unit. So a train would be 3 side-by-side production units. So be a 10 million gallon train or production unit, another 10 million gallon train or production unit, and a third. So we just refer to it as trains, production trains.
Mayor, can I ask
Yes,
one quick follow-up? I had it on my list. What impact, if any, will there be on employment with this shift, or is that again something else study?
We, from OMU's perspective, it would not affect our employment levels at all. We're required under state regulations to maintain licensed water operators of various degrees, and we have to cover that 7/24, 365 days a year. So it will not affect our employment at all.
Thanks.
Thank you, sir. Anything else from the commission? I'll open it up to the public. Anybody in the public have any questions? Yes, sir. Come ahead.
Yeah, I've got several questions I'd like to ask. First off, since bottled water is so lucrative, why doesn't OMU sell bottled water? Another one, I was reading, I guess in the paper, that Plant A is going to be shut down by 2017, that the Cabin plant will take over, or something like that. I'm not sure about that, but.
Sir, excuse me. Would you identify yourself?
Your
name?
I'm sorry. You're right. My name is James R. Mattingly. My address is 11881 Highway 144, Philpott. I'm in the East Davis County Water District.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
But another question I have is, why not operate Plant A as long as possible instead of planning to shut it down? And you know, just with general maintenance, not, you know, you don't have to rebuild it for 30 years. just run it for as long as you can and fix what needs fixing. And, okay. I want to know how many acres the new plant is going to take up. Does both plants use, does the cabin plant use chlorine as well?
Hold on, sir. Terry, you writing some of these down?
I think I got them all, Mayor.
Okay, I was beginning to say. Okay, see if you couldn't go.
Well, okay.
Because some of these I think he's already answered, but go ahead.
Where is the new well field going to be located? Okay. Now, are they going to test? Years ago, behind that plant, gypsum was piled, and also there's a something like a 10 or 20 acre ash pond behind on that property. Are there going to be wells around that ash pond? And that gypsum was piled behind that come out of that scrubber. That gypsum contained mercury, lead, arsenic, selenium. Is all that going to be checked out? I'd like to know that. And okay, that's all I need to know. Thank you.
Thank you.
Let me try real quickly. I can cover most of the questions briefly.
Okay.
I think the most important question is, why don't we operate the facility till it just like a used car until it no longer runs? Well, you can't do that with a water system. We rely on water for fire protection and for the health of our community. And so from a public planning perspective, it's not prudent to run your facilities until they can no longer produce water. If we did that, what would happen is that one of our largest manufacturers here in town that basically takes water, adds tomatoes and spices to it, and then ships it out would not be able to produce their product because we couldn't produce enough water. And we'd lose all those jobs. They'd probably never come back. So from a public planning perspective, it's not prudent to know that there's a problem and not plan to fix it because it has just too big an impact on our community. Everyone, I mean, if Chief Mitchell can tell you, if our water system was not able to produce enough water to fight fires, all of our homeowners' insurance rates would go up, as an example. So it's just not good public policy. Our well fields are not impacted in any way by what the materials that are stored at Elmer Smith, the gypsum and the ash. Under an EPA regulation today, we are putting in lined ash ponds, and all of our gypsum storage areas are in fact lined, and there's really no risk of contamination from any of those materials, besides the fact that we are required by state regulations and federal regulations to monitor the quality of the water on a very periodic day. I think we do 60 samples a day of water from throughout the system in order to ensure that it's of the highest quality and meets all the criteria. There's no new property going to be acquired at Plan A, I think, or I mean at Cabin. If we do the Cabin expansion, it's all part of the property we already own. And I think that covered about all the questions. Mr.
Very good.
Mayor.
Thank you, Terry. Anyone else in the audience? All right. That's the first reading. We won't vote on this till our next City Commission meeting. Terry, thank you so much for the presentation.
Thank you for your attention.
Commissioners, we have no municipal orders tonight, and we will go to the city manager's item. Mr. Parrish.
Thank you, Mayor. First quarter financials are complete. I ask you to recognize Ms. Galloway, our finance manager.
Ms. Galloway.
Mayor and Commissioners, we presented to you both the August and September financials. I'm going to review the overview of the September, if that's okay, and then if there's any questions on either one, I'll address those.
It'll be fine.
General fund revenues through September 30th were $8,292,390, or $295,320, 3.4% under budget, primarily due to occupational license net profit fees and timing with property tax collection. General fund expenditures of $10,706,454,000 were $2,599,148, or 19.5% under budget, primarily due to salaries and benefits, timing and maintenance, and outside and professional technical services. For your community vision, we're under budget, primarily due to timing of capital projects and outlays, and all expenditures for sanitation fund, transit fund, and rec fund were under budget. If you have any questions, I will address those now.
Yes, going through this, I had only one question, and I noticed on the insurance fund on page 33, there was a large expenditure this month in workers' compensation, $181,000, and usually that's not, we don't have a lot of expenditures there, and it makes me concerned if we've had a serious incident or something in our city. Bill,
We do have one sanitation claim, Mayor,
okay,
that is a fairly large claim. We have been very fortunate in the past not to have very many claims and not to have any substantial, but we currently do have one.
So it's a workers' comp claim. He was hurt doing?
I'm not sure. It was in sanitation.
It was sanitation. I don't know how detailed I can get, but it was sanitation work. An employee had an item fall on their head. It did serious damage to their body. No longer works for the city.
But it's something Bill Yard looked at to try to minimize that kind of thing in the future. Okay. Very good. Commissioners, anybody else have any question? If not, I'll entertain a motion we receive and file.
So moved.
Second.
Call for the vote.
Mayor Payne,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Sanford,
Yes.
Commissioner Smithwright,
Aye.
Commissioner Glenn,
Yes.
Commissioner Nunley.
Yes.
Motion passes. Thank you. Bill, the next item.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm asking the Commission consider the following personnel appointments tonight. Christopher Burns, Tristan Russellberg, and Brandon Sims, probationary, full-time, non-civil service promotional appointments as police sergeants effective November 1st. Michael Draarty, regular full-time, non-civil service appointment, accounting clerk effective October 27th. Branda Booker, probationary, full-time, non-civil service promotional appointment, TAC telecommunicator effective November 1st. Hewlin Duval and Charity Reynolds, probationary, full-time, non-civil service appointments as telecommunicators effective November 16th.
Very good. Do I have a motion for approval?
So
Motion.
moved.
Second?
Second.
Very good. Any questions, comments, anybody? Call for the vote.
Mayor Pro Tem Sanford,
Yes.
Commissioner Smithwright,
Aye.
Commissioner Glenn,
Yes.
Commissioner Nunley,
Yes.
Mayor Payne.
Yes, motion passes. Mr. Parrish, anything else?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, Mayor. 3 other items. First, to confirm the Commission's direction, we will have free transit on November 3rd, Election Day, for our community. Secondly, leaf season started today. It's hard to believe it's already this late in October, but they started in Section 3A today as they rotate each year around the city. They've completed through 3C, so tomorrow morning, crews will be working in 3D and continuing to progress to the city. And finally, Mayor, you may want to recognize Carla Deaton from Time Warner Cable, who was here tonight. The City Commission had questions at last meeting that couldn't be answered. There wasn't a local cable rep here. Ms. Deaton is here and available if the Commission has any questions tonight.
Commissioners, y'all, anybody? You good,
I
everybody?
think I'm fine.
I've got one quick
Okay,
question. for
go ahead, Commissioner Glenn.
Came all this
Come
way.
forward, ma'am. Thank you.
How are you tonight?
I'm good. How are you?
My one question, and this is just anecdotal from talking to people, and that is that when folks need service, they often can't get a hold of a live human being here locally. This merger that's going to occur, or Time Warner itself, and the way they operate, are they looking at any upgrades or changes in the way they handle, customer service concerns? I know I've had one, and you can't get a hold of anybody locally. You have to call this distance number. I don't know where they answer, Atlanta or someplace.
Well, I'll just be honest. I cannot speak for Charter what they have plans to do with the system once they come in. I do know that Brian Gregory, who is with Charter, has committed to coming here to speak to you all, I believe, on November 17th. So he would be able to answer that, or at least in part, until they get. Charter's only allowed certain information about our systems right now since they don't own us, and until they get, and again, I probably shouldn't, and I'm not going to speak for Charter, but I can speak from our previous transactions, until we get all the information that we need, it's hard to make a business decision on, what we're going to do and how we're going to do it. I do know that Charter has a call center in Louisville, and they do plan to keep that, and as a matter of fact, it's just right down the street from our media sales department. So they do have a local presence already in Kentucky, and they do not even have service here.
Okay, and when does this change kick in? I mean, when does this merger occur? I think it's still up for debate, isn't it?
It is. It could, they're hoping, and it's, again, up in the air, they're hoping it will happen by the end of the year. If it does, I'll be surprised. I'm looking maybe toward the end of the first quarter, to be honest.
Really, a lot of the questions we might have, we might be better off waiting until the merger is approved or not approved.
Yes, exactly.
But I had heard about customer service.
Okay.
So I thought
Yeah, that would probably be best. I know that they do have some general plans, but as far as all their plans, there's some that they just can't, commit to.
Thank you.
All right, you're welcome.
So, Bill, November 17th, the city commission meeting, is this individual going to be here at that meeting?
It's news to me, but I hope so.
Well, sorry. Well, Linda Ain, I know, was here at the last meeting. She's outside counsel for the city as far as cable franchising goes. And I do know that just because I was on an email chain, and that's all. So that's how I'm aware.
I'll track it down, Mayor.
Yeah, track down, because I think that is not a bad idea. I think that would be great if somebody for charter would come and tell us what's going on or what's going to change, what they're going to do. I think that would be good information for our community to have. So that'd be great, Bill. See if you can run that down.
And Brian is familiar with Kentucky. He used to live in Kentucky, so he's familiar with the state and so forth, which is kind of a plus.
All right. Very good. Thank you for coming tonight.
You're very welcome.
Okay. Mr. Ray.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor, I was just going to mention that I can confirm, I haven't gone and let Bill know that yet, but I can confirm that Charter has committed to be here on the 17th and to basically ratify and confirm to this commission their intent to uphold all the provisions of the existing franchise, to include the customer service requirements that Time Warner has. They do have a local office here, Time Warner does, that have live customer service attendants there, and it's on Old Highway 60. And but they have confirmed late today that they will be here on the 17th to answer any questions you have about their intents, both on the internet side of the house as well as the cable provision.
Great. Very good. All right. Mr. Parrish, anything else?
No, Mayor, thank you.
Okay. Now it's communications from elected officials. I have two things. One, and Bill, you mentioned this in your invocation. We do have an election coming up, and the chamber is making a big push to get people to turn out and vote. And I want to encourage everybody in this community, if you can vote, please vote. For a variety of reasons. One is just exercise that right you have. There are many, many people that have sacrificed throughout the years to allow us to do that. And I've got to tell you that I personally feel a responsibility to them to vote. I've traveled around Europe while I was teaching, and I saw a lot of white crosses over there, people. We owe it to those people under those crosses to exercise that right. And another reason is, if we want these politicians to listen to us when we go to Frankfurt, that it's important to know that, or important for them to know, that we are concerned, we will express our opinion at the polls. There are a variety of reasons for us to go do this. And I commend those young people that were here at our last city commission meeting working to make us aware of how important that is. And we're going to have free transit service that day for anyone to ride the bus to polls. So again, I want to plead with everybody in the city of Owensboro to vote. Please go vote. The next thing, this afternoon, I had the opportunity to issue a proclamation. It was designating today as the White Cane Day. And it was to bring attention to the visually impaired in our community. And I was downtown reading that proclamation, and I just wanted to share that with the commission. I learned a few things. One is there are actually 3 different kinds of white canes. And I want to read this. There's the standard mobility cane used to navigate. There's the support cane used by people with visual impairments who also have mobility challenges. And there's the ID cane, a small foldable cane used by people with partial sight to let others know that they have a visual impairment. So just be attentive when you see the white cane to know that that is a person that is visually impaired, and be cautious. They were telling me, Chief, it's a requirement on our state traffic laws that a person with a white cane always has the right of way. And, we need to make sure that we know that and recognize that law. Bill, I did speak to the individuals about whether they thought there was a need for an audible traffic signal on 2nd Street. I know we have one over here on Frederick Street near the college, and they are going to look at it. They didn't tell me, didn't respond at that time whether they thought it was necessary, but we have a lot of people going to downtown now, and of course 2nd Street, there is a lot of traffic there, and I don't know if they're going to come back and request that or not, but would you please do me a favor and look at what it would take to put an audible traffic signal maybe at one of those intersections down there. With that, that's all I have. I'll start over here. Commissioner Glenn.
All right. Just want to confirm that the Support Alliance for the Visually Impaired does great work. A friend of mine, Rick Bogus, he and Iron Lions Club, and he's our newsletter editor, and he just does great work, and he's on their board. So I'm glad you were able to do that proclamation. The other item, I've had a number of people ask me about the shift, and maybe Mr. Nolte can help us or not. The OMU billing, the issues that have been in the paper, I've had people call me and say, I'm getting my bill and I've got like 4 days to pay it. It wasn't on that same calendar, et cetera. And that may not be something you want to deal with, Terry. But obviously there's a concern when people, get their bill at a different time and all of a sudden they've got 4 days to pay. And I guess you all have a policy now where if they're late, they pay a fee, which I guess was not the case. So just to give you a chance to clarify and kind of explain what's going on.
Mr. Nolte, recognized.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, we are aware of the concerns. We've done some investigation. By ordinance, we can only allow customers 7 days for payment before it's considered late. Now, what we do is our bills are printed in Birmingham, Alabama. We send them the information, and information goes out every day to Birmingham, Alabama, to our bill printers. It is then printed out that same day and put in the mail. And for the episodes that we're aware of, and we've had a few complaints, not excessive, as might be characterized by the paper, but we've had less than a dozen complaints. We have tracked it down to a specific day of printing in which it took the U.S. Post Office 8 days to deliver that mail. And that is the reason why some customers, unfortunately, have been put in that position. And we ask all of our customers that if they find themselves in that position to please call our customer service department, and we'd be glad to make accommodations for them when those types of situations occur.
So to that end, what kind of accommodations do your customer service folks typically provide?
They'll work with the customer to see what's convenient for them to get it paid, recognizing that we're not a bank and we don't loan people money, and we are obligated by ordinance to collect that money by a certain date.
Just for the sake of information, Terry, those that were late because of the failure of the postal system, I mean, would you waive those late fees in that circumstance?
We have when we've been asked to by the customer.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Commissioner Mayor Pro Tem.
Terry,
one more over here.
Follow-up question.
Commissioner Sanders.
Can you pay your bill electronically?
Yes. Oh, you sure can.
So through text or through?
You can set up a direct an auto pay. You can pay by phone. You can call a phone number and pay by the credit card. There's a number of ways you can do it. We have a new website with a customer account so that customers can access their specific account information and make payments over the web as well.
So will it send you a notification via text?
It will.
Well, that's great.
Yep.
I've used it.
If you have an automatic draft, it'll send you a text telling you when it was drafted.
Anyone else? Any questions in regards to that? Okay. Commissioner Glenn, anything else?
Just one other quick item, and that is several of us got flu shots today, and I encourage you, if you have access to that benefit to where your insurance covers it, please try to take advantage of that, unless you're afraid of needles, of course, I guess. But nonetheless, it's good for everybody's health to get a flu shot if you can possibly do it. The other is we've got soccer and volleyball high school districts going on. If you want a nice, inexpensive evening out, go see a high school soccer or volleyball game. Davis County is hosting the soccer districts here. Ohio County is hosting the girls, and I know that the district games here for volleyball are local as well. So go out and see some fine athletes and enjoy your evening, because we've got some great teams this year at all levels have a chance to compete at a high level at state. So.
Commissioner Nunley?
No, I have nothing.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Nothing tonight. Thank you.
Commissioner Pam Smith-Wright?
Just wanted to remind everyone that we will be having a Veterans Day Parade on November the 7th. And then on November the 8th, that's a Sunday, at Good Shepherd Church, we will be commemorating the 50th anniversary of Vietnam. So if you are able to attend any of those things, we would appreciate it. Thank you.
Very good. With that, I'll open it up to the public. Anybody got any comments they would like to? Mr. Jarvis.
Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners. My name's Steve Jarvis, 113 half East 2nd Street. I really come here with the intention of really getting on y'all guys tonight, but I had a couple of my friends over here to the left. I had a little discussion with them prior to the meeting, and they kind of advised me not to do that, so I'm just going to limit my question here. It's been some misconception or people taking the word entertainment, and I'm referring to the overlay district when we took the historic district and went into Article 21 and changed it and used the term entertainment district. And when we changed this, you know, we could have really attached any name we wanted to it, in my opinion. You know, we could have really called it the Whiskey District, you know, or Bourbon District, or anything, you know, along this line, because of, you know, when we changed this Article 21, there's only two places in here where it refers to entertainment, and it is on the riverfront core, which that area is along Veterans Boulevard, immediately adjacent to Smothers Park, and then on the riverfront edge, which is right on the river, where we refer to the entertainment part of it. So I would appreciate if Mr. Ray would kindly clarify this a little bit more for the public.
Mr. Jarvis, I'm not sure what your question is.
I think Mr. Ray does.
Good. Okay. You're wanting to know why we use that language? Is that... You're going to ask these questions?
Ed Ray, City Attorney. Mayor, Mr. Jarvis has brought that issue up and related to how the perception of what entertainment district may or may not mean to the public as it pertains to noise downtown. And as we've discussed in the past, the label of entertainment district down there does signify basically a tourism area, an area that we're trying to draw and bring in people. But the legal ramification of that doesn't change anything as it relates to a noise ordinance. That was so that that particular area identified in Article 21 and recognized by the Planning Commission could be exempted from a precinct's vote to go dry. And for our economic development purposes, that's why that area, tourism destination, was called an entertainment district. The clarification that I was asked by Mr. Jarvis to make to him earlier is one that we've talked about several times here before, and that is that the noise ordinance, as it stands today, is not affected by any zoning issues related to the entertainment district. When there's noise that emanates from either within or outside of a residential area and pertains to, in basically carries over into a residence, the noise ordinance kicks in. And then there's a subjective standard that is then used to determine whether or not it is a violation of the ordinance. Generally speaking, there's two rules of thumb that we go by for everybody in the city, and that is if you're entertaining on your property, entertain to a level or to a noise level that the people that are there and attending and on your property can enjoy and hear it, but you're not affecting those around you. Secondly is, generally speaking, our officers, when they get a noise complaint, in coordination with the county attorney's office, have set a noise period time that 10 p.m., there's a different standard. And after 10 p.m., you really have to keep your noise in check, whether it's loud music or other things. So based on the complaint that we did receive from Mr. Jarvis and previously his issue here, and then his question today, I hope that explains to the general public, and I know that all of you have a firm understanding of that already, but hopefully that explains to everybody how our noise ordinance is applied. We have great officers out there that address those things with professionalism. Everybody's trying to have a good time. Everybody's trying to entertain. We've got businesses that are trying to expand, make a profit, and make their name known. And we have great officers out there that are working with the business owners and the residents to bring that together. And so far, in most cases, it works great. So if there's any questions from the commission, I'd be glad to answer them.
But Ed, that noise ordinance, if I recall, that's residential areas, right?
Mayor, it's when you're not talking about vehicles. Vehicles are everywhere. When you're not talking about vehicles, it's when the noise from either an industrial, commercial, any zoned area carries over to a residence. And when it carries over to a residence, and when you have mixed zoning like we do downtown, it can happen very easily. There's got to be give and take by all parties. And that's why I think the way that our officers handle complaints, especially when you have business establishments that are connected to residential establishments or business establishments underneath residential establishments, and as our downtown grows, the issue will have to be addressed on a case-by-case basis. And again, the rule of thumb is when you're addressing that, if you're entertaining your customers, entertain to a level in which those customers can enjoy that music, but not necessarily to a point where it's going to disrupt those folks that are living in our downtown.
Okay.
Thank you.
I guess that I want to go back and read it and look at it because I think I was setting up here when we adopted that, but the concern was that noise radiating from an industrial complex, that is going to occur. And I mean, we're not going over and shut down a business, because there's noise coming from it. So I guess that really, I'm just trying to recall our discussions then, but it was primarily meant to affect residential areas, not commercial or industrial areas, or even noise radiating from those institutions or businesses or whatever. So I would like to take a look at that because I don't think anything down here is zoned residential, is it?
Well, there is mixed use zoning that allows for residential uses, and you're absolutely right, Mayor. We made exceptions for exactly what you're talking about in the ordinance. If you're operating a backhoe and that backhoe has a reverse signal, beep, 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 and it's bothering a residential unit, that's not a violation of our ordinance. If you have a factory, or if you have a lawnmower, or if you have a construction site within a residential area, all of those are exempted. What we're really talking about is entertainment situations, and one of the most, one of the ones that was the most difficult was over on Burlew Boulevard, where the nearest residential neighborhood was over 600 feet through woods, and we had complaints almost every day. where our officers had to go in there and continuously cite them. And eventually that was taken care of. So the exemptions exist exactly like you remember.
Okay, thank you. You've helped me. Anybody else? Anything else? Yes, ma'am.
Ed, I just wanted to a clarification on something, because when I was president of the Neighborhood Alliance group, there were people that used to call me all the time and wanted me to have something done about the noise from a band at a ball game. And I mean, if you move next to a school, to a college, and you know they're having football games and bands are playing and all that kind of stuff, I mean, what's the rule on that? You know,
it's specifically enumerated in the ordinance that bands, ball games, whistles, horns, anything coming from one of our stadiums is not a violation of our ordinance. It's specifically exempted. I think it was very thoroughly reviewed. It was looked at in detail, and I think it's pretty comprehensive. And so far, it's worked fairly well for us. We have exceptions, and our police department's working on all those exceptions.
Great.
Thank you.
Very good. All right. Anybody else on anything else? If not, entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Oh, hold on. Hold on, folks. Just about to forget something. I will entertain a motion that we consider a closed session under KRS 61.810 to discuss the acquisition or sale of property.
So moved. Motion. Second.
Second, call for the vote.
Commissioner Smithroyd?
Aye.
Commissioner Glenn?
Yes.
Commissioner Nunley?
Yes.
Mayor Payne?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Sanford?
Yes.
Very good. We'll go in closed session and do nothing when we come out other than adjourn. Thank everybody for coming tonight.